TOA community, what's up, everybody? Robert Linkul with trainingtheolderadult.com back here with another episode of Wednesdays with Robert. This is episode number 25. We're going to jump a little bit all over the place here today. I've got just a bunch of stuff that I want to present and kind of discuss with you, give you multiple different things to consider and think about. I guess if we had to give one overall experience of what we're going to discuss today, it would be that the aging process definitely requires an emphasis on resistance training to build muscle mass. That ultimately is going to have a very positive effect on your bone density, which is extremely important. None of that should be a shocker if you're here listening to my channel. The process in which we do that is what's ever evolving, constantly changing. And because there are some individuals out there that are really doing it well, and I will use that term preaching the good word of how to do it right, I want to highlight those. But I also want to showcase where I feel like some people are maybe taking this a bit too far and possibly even putting some people at risk to I don't know if it's just to get, likes and views, or ultimately you've got some individuals that are fairly talented that can do some of these things. It just makes me a little leery, or it makes me want to caution individuals that are pursuing resistance training as they age that we're not expecting you to do some of these things, and some of them are really unsafe, and we'll show you that. So anyhow, let's dive into it. I got a bunch of stuff to get into. I guess that's a little bit of a monologue here to start us off, but all of these
people who are really fit.
All of these are on video here, and we're going to start off with this first one. So what this is here, these are screen grabs from my Apple Watch that showcases zones and heart rate. And so I've had a lot of people ask me, when you're talking about zone 2 and you got into a zone 3 a little bit today, and for the first time I found zone 4 in the weight room, and what are you talking about? Like, what does that mean? Peter Attia does an exceptional job at describing this in his book, Outlive. There are multiple other fitness professionals, Andy Galpin, to name another, and then Lane Norton can discuss this. All of these folks kind of give you this idea that low to moderate exercise, anything that's more than your resting heart rate, is going to land you up, and I will say, let's say this, somewhere near double your resting heart rate is going to land you into that exercise realm of zone 1. Okay, so if your resting heart rate is 60, then right around 120 is just a very general rule of thumb, is going to be somewhere around your zone 1. For me, I'm right around 130-ish is right where my zone 1 kind of resides. When I get up into the 131 to 142, that's when I'm getting into my zone 2s. So zone 1 could be obviously anywhere from 60 to 130-ish for me. But really, when you're talking like, we're exercising, that zone 1 is, I would generalize it around 100 to 130, somewhere around in there. Now, my average heart rate, as I went through this heavier lift, but of a low intensity, I was not in a hurry going from exercise to exercise. I was lifting heavier, but I was taking plenty of time to recover on this one. And so you can see I had about an hour and 20 minutes out of my full hour and 25 minutes that I was lifting where I was in zone 1 most of the time. And there's nothing wrong with that. When you're lifting, that's kind of ideal. Now, as you progress through your lifts and you're like, I want to get a little bit more intense, this one's right around 120 as my average. You can see I'm right around again an hour and 10 minutes, somewhere around in there, hour and 5 minutes. And you can see my zone 1 has crept down a little. This one was a little bit more higher intensity. And so I had more zone 2, which just means I got into this, what we'll kind of consider like a little bit more of an ideal training zone, where Peter Attia describes it as, if you're in zone 2, you can have a discussion with somebody next to you, but it's a little bit uncomfortable to do so. And it's maybe like shorthand. So you're like, yeah, man, this is really good. We're gonna, at a good pace. I'm digging this. Like that kind of thing. That's the rucking tempo that we look for on a regular basis. Is I want to be in high zone 1, zone 2 as often as I can, where I'm going to have a optimal opportunity to burn body fat and maintain and keep my muscle mass. I'm not going to work so hard that I'm going to go right past. And again, I'm no scientist. I don't know all this exactly, but the higher the zone you work into, the more likely your body is going to start to lean towards burning and utilizing body mass of muscle to help engage it. And that's why higher intensity athletes, runners, and endurance athletes don't carry a lot of muscle with them. It's really challenging to do so because they're always kind of working in that those higher zones. So that's where like that zone 2 is kind of ideal. It's like I can keep and build my muscle mass, but also work good cardiovascular health and maybe even burn off some body fat. So zone 2 is kind of ideal. Now, as we continue into another, now what I'll call a true HIRT, a high intensity resistance training workout, you can see things change a little bit. My average jumps up to 121. Now in zone 1, I'm down around 50 minutes. I've got 14 minutes in zone 2, and I had, 4.5 minutes in zone 3 and 37 seconds in zone 4. Like I had about 35 seconds in there where I was what I consider highly gassed. Now, my maximum heart rate is right around 166 to 175-ish. Like that's about the highest I've seen my heart rate get. And that's me like power sprinting up a hill. I'm sure it could go higher if I actually sprinted. I don't sprint. So when rucking, this was me going as hard as I could. Not this one, but that zone 4 would be me rucking uphill with a lot of weight as fast as I can. So to do that in a weight room and setting, I was really happy with. And I think it was during like a dynamic split squat or fast step ups or something where I was gassing myself just as hard as I could. Now, accumulatively, I got about 4.5 minutes in zone 3, which meant I was working pretty hard. I'm not talking at that level, right? But I had a good 14 minutes-ish in that zone 2, and then another 48 minutes. Now, mind you, I'm doing prep, and I run my timer from the time I start my my mobilities and my prep, which is about 7 to 8 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes, somewhere in there. And then we're training. I finish my workout. I take about a 4 to 5 minute cool down, and then I stop my timer. So how much of that time am I actually training hard? I would subtract about 10 to 15 minutes off of that. That's the window where I'm actually going, right? So maybe I should try some of these where I don't include the warm up and the cool down. I just work at my time for the workout, end of the workout, and see what my levels kind of sit at. I wonder if this is bringing it down a little bit and showing too much in zone 1, but either way, we're working at capacities here where I'm trying to build muscle mass, trying to increase my bone density, but also wanting to burn off some body fat and not lose any of my muscle mass at the same time. It's difficult to do that, and zone 2 is kind of prime for that. So that's a good example of a HIRT workout, a high intensity resistance training, not HIIT, a HIRT. And now here's a ruck, okay? Here's what a ruck looks like, where I'm out there for 2.5 hours. I went 10 miles for this. I have 40 pounds in my rucksack, and I'm off and going. And for 220 of it, I'm sitting just under 120. I'm sitting right around 115, to 120. So zone 1, and I had about 7 minutes, 8 minutes of zone 2 and 3 combined as I went through. Good cardiovascular work, but was I at any point like massively uncomfortable? No, I call that kind of my road work. Like I'm getting in my ground level, good cardiovascular health. I'm pushing things. I'm nearly double my resting heart rate. I'm right around 57 to 60 beats a minute. So I'm pretty damn close to doubling my resting heart rate. That's a good work capacity for a pretty standard ruck, 10 miles. I was really happy with that. So that answers a little bit about how and why we work these zones. And then one of our affiliates or maybe one of our ambassadors sent me this and was like, check this out. All you need is a good pair of shoes and a loaded backpack. This was in one of the local newspapers that they had. They have a rucking group there. From pickleball to Peloton, many of today's most popular fitness trends require specialized equipment, but rucking is a little bit different. Get your shoes, get some good reflective gear, make sure you're doing things really safely, put on your rucksack, and away you go. And you don't need to do much other than buy a new pair of shoes once or twice a year. you're golden, right? Get yourself a good water bottle, put a hat on, make sure you wear your sunblock, bundle up if it's cold. I mean, it's all stuff that you pretty much have. This is a very inexpensive but a high return investment in your time put into this. Rucking's fantastic. So if you are not rucking, I try to mention it in every video, it's loaded walking. If you can walk, you can ruck. This is a great way to check many boxes. Bone density for sure. Strength, full body, as far as muscular engagement goes. Lower body trunk for sure. If you extremity load, you can definitely do that. Cardiovascular health for sure. Social, cognitive engagement, all that for sure. This is a really good component to add into your life. So check that out. I don't have a link for that article, but yeah, I just wanted to feature that it was in the newspaper. Now, excuse me. Had another question of people asking me about a statement that I made. Dean Somerset was the name that I couldn't remember. Dean Somerset, Stuart McGill, a couple other individuals that are up in Canada do extensive, really, really good research on increasing flexibility, improving your range of motion. And by doing so, static stretching doesn't really increase range of motion. It increases it in the moment, but then once you're kind of back to a room temperature or normal moving range of motion, everything kind of goes back to where it is. How do you truly improve range of motion? How do you truly get more flexible? The majority of the time, if not all the time, it needs to be done under load. And that's where musculature will be stretched and expanded and allow you to get more pliable, or you need to do an excessive amount of pliability. But when you're looking at like yoga and Tai Chi and movements like that, you are moving through movement patterns under your own body weight, as opposed to a static stretch where you just hold it, 30 seconds, move to the next one. Literally shows zero improvement. Yoga did definitely increase range of motion and does improve people's range of motion and flexibility. But again, they're going through more of a dynamic flexibility routine, not a static posing flexibility routine. So we've had people go, well, how are you improving your range of motion? All of our lifts and everything we try to do in a maximal range of motion, but even my mobilities under load, I like to try to incorporate big range of motion under load. So this is a little series that I do twice a week. I do 3 half kneeling hinges, okay? This is with load. I've got about 15 pounds in each hand. 3 half kneeling windmills. Then I do a row and reach, or a half kneeling windmill row and reach position. I'll do 3 of those. I love this stretch, especially holding at the top, opening the rib cage, letting my air out, okay? One of my faves. And then I go into the half kneeling load, unload, where I'm gonna stabilize the one arm overhead the entire time. It does help to keep looking up. That's a big cue for us, is keep looking where you want the load to be. And then 3 single arm presses. And I will then finish with what we call a retraction shrug curl. So I'll do both curls, hammer, and shrug, and bring everything up and back, really focus on my posterior chain. And then I will switch and do the other side. Those loaded ranges of motion, those are great flexibility, increased range, especially for my trunk, my hips, my shoulders all feel really good after doing that 3 times on each side. I'll progress that load with 15 pounds to start. I'll go to 18s or 21s, and then I'll finish with 21s or 24s. My power block dumbbells there adjust by 3-pound increments. So I really like doing that and feel everyone just gets a little bit better and a little more pliable. I have another video of that and a progression that's kind of sped up that I'm gonna post a little bit later on, okay? All right, we are gonna share some information from some experts here and let them explain a little bit about the aging process and highlight some of the really good information. So this is my hero, one of my favorite people on earth, Peter Attia. Here we go.
80-year-old can still have the fast twitch muscle fibers of a 60-year-old. And that's what we want to have. We want to know that we still maintain some power in those muscle fibers. And that's why, for example, lifting heavy weights is essential for everyone at every age, be it men or women. One of the big misconceptions is women don't need to lift weights. That's completely incorrect. One of the misconceptions is, as you get older, you shouldn't be lifting weights. This is a complete misconception. So strength training is imperative for people as they age. And not only does it have an enormous impact on bone mineral density, but it has this enormous impact on these type 2 muscle fibers.
Okay, a couple of really key components to that is, number one, that women should be lifting, number one is that we should be lifting weights as we age. That is something that many individuals, including a lot of doctors, I didn't want to go into a deep rant on this, but I recently had a client who had a fall. She hurt herself, had a second fall, really hurt herself, and then spoke to a doctor, and that doctor said, you shouldn't lift weights anymore, and you shouldn't lift anything over 10 pounds pretty much the rest of your life. And unfortunately, my client is considering listening to that advice. We're still going to have a discussion, but it really is disheartening. From number one, someone who has believed in resistance training, who has seen it change her life drastically, then meets somebody in a white coat, and that individual says one sentence like this that could completely change her life, right? Now, what I said to this individual statistically, and obviously I don't want this, right? But statistically, when you're over 80, you've already beat the odds of how long the average American lives. The average American dies from 74 to 76, somewhere in there, okay? So at 81, 82 years old, you've already beat that. You started resistance training when you were 79, 80 years old. You've made all these great improvements. If you stop now, the likelihood of your death occurring in the next year is extremely high. And so I said that. I said, if you stop, statistically within a year, you won't be here anymore. And I want that to sink in, because that is something that words can do great harm or can do great things. And in this case, I feel like it's doing great harm. This doctor does not know what they are talking about in particular to this topic. There is so much research and so much information out there, which Dustin's going to show you. This is the one I just did a webinar on, the one that was in the Washington Post, everything. There's so many research articles like this that showcase from 35 to 75 how important resistance training is. What this particular article did was, what about the people above 75? Well, it's even more beneficial for them too. It's beneficial for everyone. So how much research needs to be done where regular daily practitioners or surgeons will know that when an aging individual has an injury, when they have something that occurs in their life, they have a fall, they have a break, they have a fairly catastrophic injury or even a minimal injury, that the first thing you don't tell them is stop doing the thing that's really making you stay alive and really helping you the most, because of these old stereotypes and these old thought processes that are proven to be incorrect, right? So now we have Peter Attia, and we have Huberman, and we have Lane Norton, and we have Galpin, and we have all these individuals that are all out there that are doctors that have spent all of this time in this field learning about this, that are now trying to educate and teach as many people as they can. Lift weights forever, the rest of your life, for all of your life, and that it doesn't matter at what age you start, it's only going to be beneficial. The risks are not real. They're telling you don't lift over 10 pounds, 20. Where'd you get that number, number one? And why is that a number that they shouldn't go over? Anybody should not lift more than their body is capable of handling. Those are called personal limits. But who are you to say that's 30 pounds or 20 pounds? That's horseshit. That is not correct, right? So for Peter to come on here and share that, number one, that these are misconceptions, that old people shouldn't lift weights, that they should have a number cap on there, get rid of all that, get all that out of your mind, right? We will train anyone at whatever ability level they're at 30, at 50, at 70, at 90. I will meet you where you were at, and we will work on improving you, period. It doesn't matter your age. It does not matter your age. This is going to be beneficial. Just because you're older and you had a fall or an injury, to now remove that is only accelerating your death process. It's increasing your mortality rate by 250%. It's the wrong fucking answer. It's the wrong thing to say to that person in that moment. And because you have a white coat on, they're going to listen. That is, I almost said something else. That is extremely harmful verbiage. And people need to preach a different strategy and a different message. Doctors should know better that terminology can do so much harm. So we have these champions, I will call them, that I want to push and promote and say, well, there's somebody in a white coat that's going to combat what this individual said. And you know what? They literally wrote the book about it and have been doing it. Please listen to them. Please listen to them and look at this other great research that's being done. Women should lift weights. There's no such thing as guy lifts and girl lifts, or guy implements and girl implements. They're all tools. They're all implements. Everybody can lift them. All exercises do great things. Pick the right things for what you need to improve and what you need to train for. And if you don't know what that is, find somebody that does. But the bottom line is, male, female, old, young, never lifted before, completely deconditioned to well-trained but needs something new to improve and challenge themselves, picking up a new sport, whatever it is across the board, resistance training should be a part of your life, and it will only improve you. It will only bring more value to your life. All right, end of my soapbox. Let's hear what Dustin has to say.
Moderate intensity resistance folks that have sarcopenia.
I do not do a podcast, UFC event. I don't do anything without using Alpha Brain.
Is moderate intensity resistance training enough for folks that have sarcopenia? This is a really great question that this meta-analysis looked at. And what they found is that folks that received light or moderate intensity exercise did not benefit as much in terms of gaining of muscle mass, muscle strength, and then physical function. In terms of outcome measures, they did not benefit as much as the folks that received vigorous intensity in terms of resistance training. These are folks that are in that 6 to 8 out of 10 RPE, that are in that 60 to 80% of a 1 rep max.
Okay, so let's talk about that real quick. Individuals that are lifting lighter loads and doing lots of repetitions did not see as great of gains in bone density and muscle mass and performance, the three things we really want them to get good at, as opposed to the individuals who worked with harder loads at higher intensities, between a 6 and an 8 of a 1 to 10 scale RPE, rate of perceived exertion, or between a 60 and 80% of a 1 rep max or a projected rep max, okay? If you work with lighter loads and over repetition, you still get just as injured through excessive volume injuries, like all of your itises, tendonitis, bicep tendonitis, arthritis, all the itises, everything will flare up and aggravate because you're doing too many reps with light load versus overlifting too heavy a load and having an injury occur from that. So what do we need to find? A 6 to 8 scale, somewhere in the high middle range. So they're calling that moderate to vigorous intensity, right? A load that you can handle in there and work at a fairly high capacity. So now I'm not going to overtrain on the other end. I'm not going to over volume with light load. I will reap the benefit of the appropriate load at the appropriate challenge, but it's a little bit more on that 60 to 80% work capacity. They're seeing great returns here. And again, what age group are we talking about?
With their resistance training. What this really tells us as rehab professionals or fitness professionals is that with these folks that do have sarcopenia, we need to be giving them higher intensity activities or vigorous intensity. They need this, they will benefit from it, and if we're giving them light to moderate or easy activities, we are leaving a lot on the table for these individuals. Is moderate
people who are really fit, what they do for you.
Okay, so Dustin Jones crushes that information. Looking at that same article that I just put together a webinar on last week, you can see that. If you still want to see it, let me know. We will have it available on our YouTube channel here in just a little bit. We give exclusive rights to our people on our newsletter and our membership that for a couple of months you get all that information first. So please, if you aren't subscribed to our newsletter, please head over to trainingtheolderadult.com and you'll get all that information first, okay? All right, so taking that information, I now find this guy, Body by Mark, who walks around New York and does this, asking older individuals or anybody who's in good shape what they do for their training, right? And how they stay so fit. And so he finds this guy. I was on Mark's page for an hour the other day, just scrolling through, looking and watching all these interviews of all these individuals. Some people in their 70s and 80s looking super fit. One guy was like, I do yoga 3 days a week, I lift weights 3 days a week, I ride a bike 3 days a week, and I swim or something like that. Like super active. And I'm like, that guy's in his late 50s, early 60s. He was like 78 or 80 years old. Like, dude, that's what exercise does for you, right? Then you'll find other individuals, you'll see them and they're like, that guy's 104 and they're like 60. And you're like, That's what not exercising does for you, okay? This keeps you young. It helps you. Look at this guy.
Their workouts, and
Yeah.
you're enormous. You mind if I ask what you do for your workouts?
Old school. I do chest tries one day,
Okay.
back bis another day, legs and shoulders separate. And I just added legs twice a week now.
So old school bodybuilder techniques, chest and triceps one day, back and bis another. Usually they do shoulders and legs on one day. And then they rotate that again. And the next time it's like shoulders and abs and arms or core or something along those lines. He has another day of legs, which is awesome. Wait till you see how old he is.
What do you do for supplements?
I take 50 grams of protein before I work out,
Yeah.
50 after.
Okay, that's a shit ton of protein. I don't know if you need 100 grams of protein in 2 hours or whatever it is. That's a lot of protein. Get a high amount of protein in your diet, but that's a lot. So, yeah, okay, obviously it's working for him, but I wouldn't advise that for everyone.
I do creatine, branched chain aminos, and glutamine.
Okay, so the glutamine helps a lot with the joints. You could also get collagen. Collagen will do a very similar thing. Both is great as well. The branched chain amino acid is going to assist in muscle growth and bone density as well, so that's great. Creatine, we talked about last week a bit, is going to have a great opportunity to assist you in rebuilding your body in recovery so you can push a little harder, but also through the aging bodies, lots of research for cognitive improvement. So this guy's crushing it. He's doing all really good stuff. I'm so glad he didn't have anything else that was excessive, but this is
You've been doing that whole circuit for
35 years.
how many hours a night
35 years. Let's see how old he is.
do you sleep?
I sleep like shit.
If you had one piece of advice for people to get jacked,
The one thing is consistency. Can't miss.
are you a bodyguard for someone?
I drive some.
You
my
drive.
family,
Okay. You mind if I ask how old you are?
Yeah. 61.
Come on.
61 years old. Biggest issue I heard with everything he said is that he doesn't sleep well, okay? 61 years old. He's a bodyguard and a driver, it sounds like, for somebody he's waiting outside this hotel for. A couple of the other ones, they show some of the individuals coming out, and you're like, these people are pretty fit. Like, they're protecting somebody that's high up there. But 61, guy looks fantastic. Like, if he didn't have a gray goatee, he could be like, I'm 44, and he'd be like, yep, I believe that. Look at his body, look at his arms like that. Now, is he gonna like sprint and chase and do jujitsu and choke somebody out? I don't know, right? But I can tell looking at him, doesn't have a ton of body fat on him, right? Doesn't have a ton of body fats, not carrying excessive load, has great muscle mass to him, which by default means he's got great bone density, unless there's the rare occasion where you have all this muscle mass but some kind of autoimmune disease that's chewing away your bone density. It's almost always 99 out of 100 times, if you have good muscle mass, your bones are going to be very dense and be very healthy. So I could probably make that assumption safely. And he'll also ask about like cardio and such on some of these folks. Some are like, I don't do any cardio. Others are like, all I do is cardio. The point is people are putting in effort. That's the bottom line. And it doesn't matter how old they are, they're all getting active, and all of them have resistance training in their lives somehow.
Yeah.
I need to see your driver's license. I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Come on, really?
February 20th, 1962.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for stopping. It's
Hey,
Body
yeah.
by Mark
Nope.
on TikTok and Instagram.
Okay, check out Body by Mark if you get an opportunity, you want to see more of those. Those are
There you go.
Thanks, man.
Okay, this is a cool one I saw. Andrew Coates, my buddy up in Edmonton, posted this from Dan Go. It's better to be the oldest person in the weight room than the youngest person in the nursing home. Keegan, my wife, sent me that, and I absolutely love it. I'm just like that. I could not agree more, right? I would way rather be the oldest individual doing whatever it is that's going to help me improve and live longer than the youngest person in the nursing home. I have had experiences with both, where I've helped the individual who's the oldest in the weight room and also have family members who were the youngest people in the nursing homes. We want to change that mentality. You can maintain your independence into your 80s, 90s, maybe all the way until death, right? Remember, I'd rather you go out with your boots on, you're 98 years old, you're 102 years old, you're out doing things, completely taking care of yourself, heart attack, dead. It goes that quick. That is the honorable way to go. I don't want you to lay in bed for 3, 6, 8 months and wither away and have everybody else there watching you become a shell of yourself. I want you to be an absolute stud muffin until your last day, heart attack, dead, or however wherever you're gonna go, just die in your sleep. Like we wanted to just go quickly. And that's the thing. You've lived your entire life. You weren't sick at the end of it at all. That would be ideal, okay? That would be ideal. That's the way I wanna go. That's the way I wish it for everybody out there, because I've seen the other side and it sucks. It isn't any fun for anybody. It only brings in bad memories. So I wish the best for everybody as they age through this. Okay, I saw this one the other day. This individual, let me go, oh, it just said on his first day, he had a hard time doing that sit to stand with a 5-pound dumbbell in his hand, okay? And now 1 year into the journey, take a look at this. He's elevated, so he's at a deficit, and he's got 85 pounds on the Brett Contreras T-bell, which I love, by the way. I want to get some of those blocks, those Brett Contreras blocks. They're like D blocks. I want to get some of those. That would make things so much easier in-house. 81 years old. Look at that squat. Below parallel, deadlift, below parallel. Great knee control, and then he rips off like 20.
Not watch this
push-ups in a
TikTok
row.
if you have a weak stomach. I'm serious.
Okay, awesome, awesome. I love it. Okay, we're getting into 30 minutes here. Hang with me. We got a couple more. This guy, Look Like You Lift. I love this dude. Just found him. I thought this was really fun. He's going to warn you a couple of times, and he's going to show you the video I showed you last week. So be ready for that.
You better keep scrolling. Final warning. What you just witnessed is someone's ACL being completely ruptured, which is extremely common on this exercise. Oh, Braden, that's just a freak occurrence.
You sure about that?
Ugh. So what's going on here? Glute machines and sissy squat platforms put a posterior pressure on the tibia. This puts the knee in an unnatural position, and it can completely tear the ligament that attaches the knee to the shin. It's a very painful and expensive recovery process. So please stop using these stupid machines. Now, if you want to put more tension on the quads, a completely safe alternative is a bodyweight sissy squat. This puts no pressure on the ACL, it's safe, and it's still a great exercise. Be safe out there. Send this to someone who uses these machines.
So this gives you a very good, Keith's coming in to help me with laundry. This gives you a very good example of that same exercise I was showing you. He gives you a really good breakdown on this, where why the sissy squat is actually a rehabilitation exercise to help with the ACL, right? But on the back side of it, if you're doing this other machine, I don't even know what you call that other machine, but there are multiple videos of people. And if you go back and watch, I can't play it again. If you go back and watch, you'll see, watch their knee. You see the ACL break and tear in their knee. You can see the gap in their knee open up. It's so gross. And now you're looking at minimum, if you're Adrian Peterson, 9 months of rehab, if not longer, more like a year to 18 months, somewhere in there, to really make sure your knee is healthy again. It's not worth it. There are so many other options, okay? Now, considering this is one more, I think I have this one and one other little thing to show you. When we're talking about things that aren't worth it, this individual, this is Mr. James CPT. There's a lot of stuff he puts up that I like. There's a lot of stuff he puts up that I'm not a huge fan of, and I'm gonna show you this compilation he has of his superstar client, who's older, yes, but why put them into these positions? I think I've shown this before, but look. Huge risk of breaking her hip or hurting her right there. Almost hits her head, could have fallen, broken anything there. Happens again. Like, I get it, you want to be able to survive these falls, but unnecessary risk for what? Either just pull the sled or just carry the hex bar. Like, I don't get the idea of anyway, that's kind of the thing. Why I wanted to show some of these, it's like, I don't expect people to do this. I don't expect regular folks to do this stuff. Is it neat that she can do it? Yes. Is there high risk to these? Absolutely, okay, absolutely. You know how many bicep tendons I've seen? I think more, maybe the preacher curls, number one, flipping tires, number two. There's more bicep rupturing doing this exercise than anything else out there, maybe exception of the preacher curl. What if she misses that ball and lands on it and snaps her ankle? Are there other hand-eye coordination drills we can do? Are there other plyometric drills we can do that don't give you that opportunity? Absolutely. The band breaks, is that her fault? Whose fault is that? The coach's. You are the one responsible for all that equipment in there. So that had nothing to do with her, but did you put her at risk? Absolutely. The good thing about this is she's jumping onto a padded box. That's why these padded boxes are so great. I'm missing a good 2 inches of skin up my shin that occurred on a wooden box just like that. So good concern here, but this is a 12-inch box. I think she jumps eventually on like a 16-inch box. I love it that she can do these, and it's great. But when is she going to be jumping up onto things? Is she competing for this? Like, that's where the risk versus reward. There are other plyometric things she could do that would be just as explosive, but not require the risk being taken to land up on these boxes. Okay, it's obvious she's a special person. Okay, it's very obvious she's a special person. At 73 doing these things, it's amazing. The one that you just saw a second ago where she's doing the push-ups with the pad on her back, wait till you see, and I showed it last week on my phone, but wait till you see what can happen when people do that and they do it wrong. It's coming up here in just a second. That one, this guy, wait till you see this. There's a guy that's going to do this in a second. Yeah, I mean, she's special. You know, she's special for sure. But just be warned, we're not expecting everybody else to do that, okay? All right, here we go. Oh boy, you can already see where this is going. You can already see where this is going. Oh. Yeah, you think that's broken? Dude's got a good poker face, I'll give him that. I think it plays again. Yeah, okay, here we go. Oh. Oh man, is that worth it? I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. Let's see what this guy says. Yeah, he showed the x-ray too. That's why I want to show that second part. Anyhow, I know this is a little bit long one. I appreciate you all staying with me. And again, like I love it that she's able to do all that. I just want to have realistic expectations. We're not expecting everybody to do things like that. She is a very special person. And I love it that Mr. James shares those things that she does. But I think there needs to be disclaimers of like, this person is exceptional, right? And then show some of the other basic stuff that people could and should be doing to like build up into those things. You want to show all the levels. Anyway, all right, I hope you enjoyed today. I went on a lot of rants, shared a lot of different things. I hope you got some good information from it. We just released our information here about our eccentric course that's coming up in March, end of March of 2024. So keep a lookout for that. All you coaches out there, if you'd like to get information on that, head over to the website at trainingtheolderadult.com. You can see the outline, everything we're going to be covering, pricing dates, all that good stuff. It's all going to come up and be on there. And until next time, thank you all for being here with me. I love and appreciate you all. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have questions, comments, hit me up down below. If not, continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia. Please subscribe. Please like the video. Leave a comment if you want and help us grow our community. Much love, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.